Hi, sign. Okay, we're here. How you doing, Corey? My
I'm
name is
good,
Phil
thanks, Phil.
Barrett, Clifton Park Town Supervisor. I'm here with Corey Kirchert. Corey grew up in Clifton Park, and we have some great photos, old photos of you, Corey, to show here today, as well as some other names that are infamous in the town of Clifton Park. But we're here today, a discussion about the town seal. Now, Corey no longer lives in Clifton Park, but when he was a little bit younger and residing here in Clifton Park, he won a contest that resulted in the town seal. If anybody has looked at the town seal, there's many different elements, some very obvious, some more in the background, but there's every piece of that seal has a meaning to the town of Clifton Park. And obviously, Corey, you did a great job in that contest. And we have up here on the screen a picture from what was called this was from the Gazette. This was the Gazette, May 14th, 1981. And Corey, you're there on the left, and John Shear is still our town historian, is there on the right, and Evelyn Dash is the person in the middle. So you are the creator of the town seal. And I'd like to start off today by, just giving folks a little bit of a history lesson about that process that you were a part of that led to the seal. And then we'll get into a discussion about what each element of the seal means. So please bring us back to 1981 and how this whole process came about.
Okay, Phil, there are two ways to tell about the history of the seal. One is my personal recollection, and the other is based on some of the materials that I forwarded to you. I think the selection process, first it was a contest, and it was open to the public, and the selection process went in three phases. The first consisted of voting at the Clifton Country Mall, and apparently 151 people cast their ballots for a number of submissions at the Clifton Country Mall. And from that public voting, they took the top 10 most highly voted for versions of a potential seal, and then they forwarded those to a group of 5 people. I think it was Audrey Kuhn, Sandra Bowden, Jim Hanley, whom I knew. I think it was either before or after, but Willard Van Vranken, and of course, John Shearer, the town historian. Mm-hmm. Those individuals then cast their ballots and chose 3 out of the 10. And of that, the town board voted, I think it was, I don't know what date it was, but they voted. And I was fortunate enough for them to have chosen my version. All the versions were very interesting. And again, I consider myself quite lucky to have been the one whose version was chosen. It was something I definitely wanted to do for the town. I remember when the opportunity first began. I think there was some kind of publication, and it became something I spent some time doing. And I wanted to give back to the town so much of what I experienced positively in Clifton Park. In terms of what I specifically remember of that process, I remember, again, submitting my drawing. And the next step, I believe, was the town hall meeting, which I attended, and at which my particular submission was voted in. Mm-hmm. Now, with respect to the elements, did you want me to go into that right now, Phil?
Yeah, I would. I think it's important that, I mean, everybody sees the seal, but we don't always know exactly what all the elements represent. And I think we have do we have another picture here, I believe, of one of the old stories um, from the commercial news, as it was known back in the day,
Right.
before it became the community news.
Oh, is it?
And this
Okay.
was May 5th, 1981. So with this particular newspaper article, we can see all the elements of the seal. So perhaps we can use this as kind of a jumping off point, and people can also read the article. So why don't you start going through some of the elements, Corey, and explaining their meaning, please?
Okay, sure. Uh, there were actually two versions. I did the one version as a submission, and then I did a second version uh, that sort of cleaned up the submission. But the there are basically three sets of elements to this design, in my opinion. The first is the outer band, and as I recall, the name of the seal was given. It had to be the seal of the town of Clifton Park. The Saratoga County, New York, wasn't mandatory, but I put that in, obviously, because it's one of the towns of Saratoga County. The second element in this would be what I call the sign or the shield. That consists itself of three parts. The first part, which you can't tell from the colors here, but the first part consists of two flags. The second part is the sky with the constellation and the moon. And the third part is the water. So the two flags include the flag of Netherlands on the left, and on the right is the British flag, as it was adopted, I believe, in 1707, which would have been the relevant time period for Clifton Park. So my understanding of the history is that in 1609, Henry Hudson, for whom the river is named, came up on the half moon up the Hudson, and that became the basis for the town of Half Moon later, that the name of Half Moon. Mm-hmm. But in any event, the Dutch flag flew over New Netherlands for about a little less than 60 years, from 1609, as I understand, to 1664, when the British came down to New Amsterdam, which is New York. Basically, their ships sat outside the harbor, and the Dutch surrendered to the British, at which point the British flag became the dominant flag, the red ensign, in 1707. Mm-hmm. So the red ensign, the original one, would have been the cross of St. George, which is just a red cross on a white field. But in 1707, I think it was the Act of Union. In any event, Scotland and England came together. So the British flag on the right shows the cross of St. George superimposed on the saltire or the cross of St. Andrew. Mm-hmm. So we have the two flags, the Dutch and the British, showing the European history of this area. Then the constellation and the sky. The constellation has 5 stars, obviously, and I wanted to make the stars more pleasing. So what I did was I made them in an arched way, so arched fashion. So one of the stars represents Jonesville, Elnora, Visscher's Ferry, Rexford Flats, Groom's Corner, and the Clifton Park intersection. And now that's not necessarily hard and fast. There are different hamlets that comprise the town from the beginning, but basically that's what I had in mind when I drew it. And the moon in this case is closer to a true half moon. I prefer more of a crescent in the recent designs, but that's basically signifies that the town broke off from the town of Half Moon in 1828. So from 1791 to 1828, the town was part of the town of Half Moon, which from 1791 I'd always have been in the county of Saratoga. I'm not an historian, but my recollection is that Saratoga was broken out of the county of Albany, which was monstrous, and Saratoga became a separate county. And then there's this partitioning process commenced later. So the third part, So the third part of this sign is sort of symbolic water, really. And it shows Clifton Park from across the river, the Mohawk River, which is, of course, on the southern border of the town. And so it's stylized water, and it shows Vischer Ferry from the Mohawk River. The Mohawk River from the other side. And now the third element of the seal would be the garlanded agricultural products, which include maize and wheat. And that's all captured by the ribbon with the date that the town was broken off from Half Moon, which was 1828.
Wow, very nice, very nice. So as you were working through this process, now you did all the artwork, the thought process that went through. I think the stars are a great example. I thought that was fantastic how you had the 5 stars representing 5 hamlets through the town. Just a great deal of thought and imagination that went into this. Give us some insight on the process as a young man going through this, through the many ideas that I'm sure you thought of, discarded, and then the ones you kept, and they ended up in the final seal.
Well, I wanted to show, with the stars, I wanted to highlight certain parts of the town. Not to be simply selective, but I think historically those were important parts of the town. And so in designing the seal, I wanted to infuse it with as much of Clifton Park as I understood and knew at the time. So again, the European colonization, represented in the flags, the agriculture, which would have been in place certainly before the Europeans came and remained so, particularly the maize and the wheat, the 2 types of corn. And the sign, I didn't mention this before, but if you notice the top part of the sign or the shield is essentially it's a broken pediment. And yeah. I wanted to be like a sign that was very inviting, almost as if you're going to an inn or something. You're coming to a place that is very inviting and a place where you want to be, which is my experience at Clifton Park in Saratoga County.
See, it's that kind of insight into your thought process and the intricate details of many different parts of this seal and what they represent to you, and in turn the town. I mean, that's really that connection that I'm trying to make here, and you just did a great job of explaining it. So thank you very much. Okay. Now, as we move toward the new design that you've been working on, and you proposed making some relatively minor changes, but some changes to the seal, and updating, if you will. You also sent me a couple pictures of a manual, which was very intriguing to me as well. And I think we've got a picture here of, there we go. Tell us a little bit about this manual that you have put together.
Well, if I may, Phil, I'll just go back before I even colorized the seal. I came into your offices a couple months ago, I believe, when I was up in upstate New York and Vermont. And I walked into your office and I met with, I think, Jane, the secretary, administrative assistant, and told her that I designed the seal and I was going to put color in it. Fortunately, I wasn't thrown out.
No, we're
This is,
very inviting here. Just as you described, we're very inviting. We didn't want
well,
to disappoint you on your return home.
that's right. I mean, it was a great experience because I was tolerated and so then I said, I came in because I said to my wife, Gina, I said, I've got to put color in that seal. I've got to finish this project. It wasn't finished because as I described the two flags and whatnot, the single color of the seal is inadequate. I wanted to have a full color seal. Single color versions or two color versions are great for other purposes, but the town deserves the full color that I envisioned when I created it. So I contracted with a gentleman, as it turns out, a couple gentlemen, Croatian artists, and they constructed. We worked together, and they put the color into the seal, and they also put together this book of standards, which I tried to send, but it's just too much for. I think it's on Clifton Park's end. It's just too big of an email. So I'll bring that up or mail it. They constructed this book of standards, which has the specific colors in the colorized version and describes the seal and basically provides the instructions for what to do and what not to do when reproducing the official seal, if this seal is accepted as the official seal, the colorized and modified version, slightly modified. What else I've done with these gentlemen is I've got another contract pending, and we're going to construct a bicentennial version that will also be fully colorized, two color and maybe a three color version for the 2028 bicentennial. And so I hope to get that to you before November 9th. That's my goal. But in any event, to go back to my story, so I came in and visited Jane and told her that I was going to put color in the seal and I was going to get back to her. And so I set about, and that's where we are today. We've accomplished that part of the mission. Hopefully this will be accepted. If not, we can accept we can put the color into the older version the same way it's in this new proposal.
Great. Now, yeah, you're right. We do appreciate you coming by and talking about this. It's interesting to hear you say you wanted to finish the project that started, I guess, in 1981. I'm sure at that point you thought you were finished, but you still had some unfinished business all these years later.
I did. I always wanted the seal to look the way I envisioned it, which is, a full color. And to be professionally completed. I didn't have the tools, certainly not the tools that folks have today, the computer tools that we didn't have back in 1981 to do this kind of work, or at least of which I was unaware at the time.
Well, this is a wonderful idea, the Book of Graphic Standards, as you described. We'll work on getting that over here electronically. Might be something to do with our blocking mechanisms, but that's a very nice thing to have as the town goes forward and considers the new seal. So why don't we talk about the new seal? I mean, the 200th anniversary is coming up, and that's something that you and I talked about. Maybe start generating some ideas for that birthday celebration. And so I do appreciate you working on that as well.
Well, thank you, Phil. I'll mention some of the what we believe to be improvements or modifications, however you look at them. The first and most noticeable one will be the red apples. Now, when I did the seal originally, I hadn't really thought about all the apple orchards. But in talking to Phil, he had expressed puzzlement, I guess, over the fact that there was no reference to that particular agricultural product. So working with Nevin and the other gentleman in Croatia, great artists. They put in the apples, and we decided to have them sort of counterbalanced there, upper left and lower right. And we also moved the corn. I believe was the corn on the corn was on the right, I think originally, and we kept the wheat at the bottom, and then wrapped it all with the ribbon. And excuse me, another change, a proposed change that we have, and this was Nevin himself. He put a rope around the sign. So if you look, it's sort of subtle, but there is a rope that outlines our sign, our shield. And let's see, the third change, well, okay, the positioning of the agricultural products.
Right.
And let's see.
It was that, refresh my memory, was there a thinking around the rope? Was that to represent something about the town? Could you describe that?
Yes. Again, I think Vischer's Ferry was probably a very important part of the town's growth. So that rope is represents the rope ferry, which Vischer Ferry had back in, I suppose, 1700s or whatnot. So that's what the rope represents, Phil.
Yeah, it's a very subtle, but again, looking to that detail to represent a part of the history's past, I think is incredible. Just incorporating that small, subtle change has incredible meaning to the seal and to the town's history. Yeah, now we did talk about the apples, and years ago, I remember thinking, gee, I wonder why there aren't apples in the seal, because, you know, the orchards are a big part of our agricultural heritage and are still very vibrant today. If you see the lines of cars in the fall, this fall, the orchards did incredibly well, despite the COVID restrictions that they had to abide by. But they remain a very large part of our culture and economics in Clifton Park. So I think that's nice. And you had two versions. You had the version with the red apples and then green apples. I think the red works better. I think it really pops. It goes well with the blue and the gold. And you've got the red apples with the green in the background. I think that just really the way it's shaped, right?
Yeah.
In each corner, I think it just offsets nicely and really plays well within the design. What do you think?
Oh, personally, I think it's vastly superior to the original. That was a great idea that you had, and I just think it's now much more representative, as you point out, of that part of the agricultural history of the town. So I think it's great, and it creates opportunities in terms of the single and two color versions that are very interesting. And that I've sent some, but we're still working on a couple of them.
Yeah, that's great. And the whole way that the colors mesh together, I think just look beautiful. And it's very impressive. And I can't thank you enough for the amount of work that you've invested in this project, finishing this project a few decades after you finished it the first time.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks for your help. And yes, it's been almost 4 decades, but it had to be done, Phil.
Right. Well, hey, better late than never.
That's right.
So I think at this point, we're streaming this on Facebook Live on the town Facebook page. This is a public Zoom meeting, so we wanted as many people to see this as possible, not only to get them thinking about the seal of the town of Clifton Park, but also to a little bit of a history lesson as part of your description of what all the elements within the seal represent. John Scheer, as I mentioned, is still our town historian. Years ago, John wrote a book, Bits of Clifton Park History, and he just released a second version, More Bits of Clifton Park history. And the book leads off with a discussion about the seal. So I need to get you a copy of that. And it's as only John can do. I mean, just an incredible book that reviews many sections of Clifton Park history, not only in picture but in words and firsthand accounts. John just does an incredible job. And as I mentioned last night, those books are a treasure for our town, because it's one place, or now two places, these two great books that people can reference when thinking and learning about the history of the town of Clifton Park. Certainly, you're a big part of that effort as well, too, Corey, with your work on the seal. And I appreciate that, and I know everybody in town does. So we're hoping that this will spark a general conversation about the new rendition of the seal, and that will lead to your appearing at a town board meeting in November. I think we decided on November 9th.
Yes.
Okay, great. So if you need to change that, just let me know. Certainly, I know you're coming a little bit of a distance. So, but it'll be great to have you back here in town, talking about the seal, talking about these changes that you've proposed, and we'll take it from there. But again, thank you very much for everything you're doing.
Well, thank you very much, Phil, and I thank everybody. And again, Evelyn Dash and John Shearer, my understanding is Evelyn started the entire process, as I say, 4 decades ago. And so I appreciate everybody and appreciate the town and appreciate your help. And thank you very much. Yes.
So we're going to label this project Operation Unfinished Business. How's that?
That's perfect.
All right, good. So we'll be in touch, Corey. Again, to everybody out there that's watching, we'd love to hear your comments about the seal. Some minor changes, but again, we believe important changes that further represent not only the history of Clifton Park, but our present. So send us your comments on Facebook. We'd love to have them. And we'll continue the process of considering some changes to the seal. I want to thank Corey for investing his time in this project and for being here today. And we look forward to having him at a town board meeting here in a couple of weeks. So with that, we'll continue to work on this project and move forward. Take care, Corey. We'll be talking to you soon. And thank you, everybody, for watching.